Learn how you can use Azure Cognitive Search to get AI-enabled insights from your data in Azure SQL. This week on Data Exposed SQL Insiders Series. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed SQL Insider Series. Today I have Chris joining us. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you kick us off by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. My name is Chris Baudo. Glad to be here. I am a cloud solution architect with Microsoft. I focus on data and AI workloads, and I essentially help customers onboard to Azure.
Awesome, cool. Well, you seem like the exact right person. We're going to be talking about integrating different services together, specifically Azure Cognitive Search. Now, that might be something a lot of people aren't familiar with. Can you start us off maybe by telling us what is Azure Cognitive Search?
Sure. Azure Cognitive Search is a fully featured PaaS service in Azure that allows intelligent searches across a multitude of data sources, some of which include Azure SQL.
Awesome, cool. Now, the next question that would probably come from most SQL people is, how is this different from SQL Server full text search?
Yeah, so I think the main thing you get with Cognitive Search is you have this optional AI enrichment of your data that uses cognitive services to pull out some of the key information from your data. You also have a more robust search experience that's comparable to enterprise level web searches.
Okay, sweet, awesome. Okay, so better search, maybe a little bit easier to use. Maybe you can get some AI infused into that search capability. So that's awesome. Okay, so I guess the last question is really, how do you get started? Is it easy?
It is. All you really need is an Azure tenant, an Azure subscription, and a cognitive services resource, connectivity to an Azure SQL data store you probably already have, and then just some knowledge about your data, your tables and your columns that you want to make available for search. Okay, so the first step will be going into the Azure portal. You will see that you have multiple services available to you. The easiest way to get to Cognitive Search is just type search up in the search bar. And then you'll see this service called Cognitive Search, and you click on it. I already have one created, but what I'm going to do is just create another one just to show you how easy it is. So you click on Create. And so you have your subscription. What you'll do is you'll choose a resource group. I have a development one here. You'll give your Cognitive Search service a name. And then, and this is probably one of the more important things, is you want to choose a region that is the same as your data stores. So if your SQL DB, your SQL MI, or your SQL Server on a VM is in a certain region, you want to co-locate the search service within that same region. So mine's in South Central US. I'll choose that here. Next, you can change the pricing tier. I mentioned the free and basic tiers just to get started. I'm going to stay with the standard tier for now. That's the default. And then next, I'll click Scale. The first thing you'll notice is obviously the cost. I have something called a search unit. You have these things called replicas and partitions. With one replica, you don't really have any redundancy, any HADR. So what I'll do, if you can choose two, that'll give you 99.9% availability for read operations. So if one replica goes down, the other one's available. You can also choose 3 replicas and get both read and write redundancy for operations. And you can also choose extra partitions and have this cognitive search index, as it's called, spread across multiple partitions for faster querying. But for now, I'll just keep it 1 and 1. And then click Next. Networking, there's a public endpoint by default. Of course, it's secured. You can also have private connectivity with private endpoints, but for now, I'll leave it as public. No tags. I'll click Review and Create. And then finally, click on my Create button to get the deployment of that service going. So let me go back. So that's already completed. I'll go back to Cognitive Search here, and I'll click on the one I've already created. And the first thing you'll notice is when you pull up your search service, if you scroll down just a little bit on the overview screen, you'll see this Get Started tab. The first thing I would do if I were a DBA or a developer and I just wanted the least amount of complexity as possible, I would use this Import Data Wizard. What that's going to do is kind of hook up your data and ingest it into the search service and make it available for searching. So if you click on Import Data, you'll see I have some existing data sources. I mentioned the multitude of data sources that you can have here. This first one here is a SQL MI I have. You have to specify the table when you connect to your data source for the first time that you want to use. And you can also hit the drop-down list here and see all the different options for new connections. But what I'm going to do is select this Real Estate US Sample Azure SQL DB. And I have this table called Listings 5K King County, Washington. And so I'm going to use this table and make it available for search. So I click Next, and here's probably the coolest part of the whole experience. When you go into Cognitive Search, you have to have, for this optional AI capability, you have to have a Cognitive Services resource. You can create a new one here if you don't have one already. I already have one, so I'm going to just click on my Cognitive Services resource that I've pre-created. And then you add these things called enrichments. These enrichments get put into what's called a skill set. The first thing I have to do is tell it which field within my table I want to do some enrichments on. I want to choose the description field here, which is a description of a real estate property in question. And down here, I want to select this checkbox, which is going to take that description, and it's going to attempt to extract people names, organization name, location names, key phrases, etc. I'll uncheck Translate Text since I know my description is already in English, but you can translate that if you want to. It'll also attempt to extract PII, or personally identifiable information, from that description field. So what I'll do is click Next. So right here is where I can specify what is searchable. So you'll see these attributes called retrievable, filterable, sortable, facetable, and searchable. Those all have different meanings, but essentially it's going to take all your columns here and it's going to define what you can do to those columns and whether they are exposed in search. I'm just going to leave the defaults here. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to give my indexer a name. An indexer is the thing that's going to pull the data out of the data store, Azure SQL in this case, and it's going to convert that data to JSON format. It's going to serialize it as JSON, and that JSON is what we're going to search. So I'll click Submit here. And while that's going, it's going to start that indexing process in the background. It's going to take several minutes to complete that. And while the indexer is indexing the data, I'm going to flip over to an index that I already have created. It's called Real Estate US Sample Index with Skill Set, and just show you the output. I'll click Search here, and you can see all the data in the table has been converted to JSON format. What I did was I took this description for the AI enrichment, and if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that it has extracted several locations from the description. It has also extracted some key phrases. So that's some of the value that's brought by the optional AI enrichment. And the last thing I'll show is the ability to query data that's in there. So I'm going to take this query that I have. I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and I want to paste my query in here. And so you can see it's very easy to search the data that you have pulled out and put in that index. And that's essentially it. That's all there is to get started with Azure Cognitive Search.
Awesome, cool. Thanks so much, Chris. This is really interesting to me because it is super easy to get started, connect your data, and start creating these indexes and then adding the AI to it and then being able to query it. So thanks so much for coming on the show and showing us this. To our viewers, if you like this episode, go ahead and give it a like. Check out the description for links to learn more. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.